I'm Scott, the ex-grasshopper with NoMoreGrasshoppers.com. In this video, I'm going to be showing you ways you can prepare for a hurricane that can help you and your loved ones survive. Hurricanes, one of the world's most destructive weather forces. These storms are capable of producing winds up to 160 miles per hour and dumping 2.4 trillion gallons of rainwater. Even if your area hasn't been affected by a hurricane lately, this is not the time to become complacent. These storms are nothing to be taken lightly. Hurricane season starts June 1st and ends November 30th. These are some of the basic steps you need to take to prepare for hurricane season.
You'll want to call and make sure you have both hurricane and flood insurance. Document valuables through photographs or video. And gather important documents such as passports, birth certificates, and social security cards. Have your plywood or storm shutters ready to protect your windows from flying debris. Trim hanging and dead tree limbs, and make a list of family and emergency contact numbers. Make sure you include important services such as your utility company, fire department, and flood cleanup services. Now's the time to start monitoring local weather. Check with your local news sources for info on how to track hurricanes in your area. Make emergency plans with your family and know when you can stay and when you should evacuate. Make sure you take pet needs into consideration as well. And start building your emergency kits today.
Now that you have some of your basic hurricane season preparations taken care of, let's talk about what you need to do in the event that a storm is actually headed your way. If you absolutely must stay home, here are some essential items that you're going to need to take care of you and your family. When a hurricane makes landfall in your area, you're probably going to lose electricity and might even lose water. You want to make sure that you have water stored for each member of your family. You want 3 days to a week, and you want 1 gallon per person per day. You might also want to consider storing some water in 5-gallon buckets, or use something like this aquapod and fill up your bathtub so that you have water you can use to wash dishes or bathe. You also want to have 3 days to a week's worth of non-perishable foods. And since we're probably going to be without electricity, you want to have a manual can opener and an alternative means to cook with. Whether that be a charcoal grill outside or something like this propane-powered camp stove, you want to have something to cook on as well as the appropriate amount of fuel. And since you might be cooking on an open flame with propane or charcoal, you want to make sure you have a fire extinguisher on hand as well. Because the hurricane brings such high winds and such heavy rain, you might end up having some damage to your house while you're there. So you want to make sure you have a basic toolkit and some plastic sheeting and some duct tape just in case anything goes wrong. You can use the sheeting to cover any windows that might get broken, even though you might have covered them. You're going to want to have an alternative means of lighting as well. I would suggest having a flashlight for each member of the family, and make sure you have extra batteries to go along with those. You also want to have something like this propane lantern or this LED battery powered lantern. Personal hygiene is very important to your health, and in the event that you lose water during a hurricane, you may not be able to take a bath and you may not be able to flush your toilet. So I would suggest that you have heavy trash bags with twist ties so that you can dispose of any waste you and your family create. When you take a bath, you want to make sure you conserve water by rationing, but by also supplementing some of it with wet wipes. And you also want to make sure you have any regular hygiene items that you and your family use on a regular basis. During an emergency, you want to make sure you've already stocked up on your prescription medications, but you also want to include some basic medications for pain relief, as well as a basic first aid kit. You want to include items such as allergy medications, pain relievers, anti-diarrhea, instant cold packs, band-aids, triple antibiotic medication, alcohol and hydrogen peroxide, and make sure you have gloves, to name a few. I know some of you guys out there might be really overwhelmed right now with the amount of information I've given you, but we're doing this now before hurricane season starts so that you have time to prepare and you're not one of those people who are in a line in a supermarket or at Home Depot the night before the hurricane when there's nothing left. So now we're going to talk about what I think you should do in the event of a major hurricane, and that's to get out, to evacuate. So let me show you a few of the things you're going to need to take with you on the road. If the storm is projected to hit your area, you're probably going to have about 48 hours to decide whether you're going to stay or whether you're going to evacuate. I would definitely suggest that you evacuate. You don't want to be stuck in a house without power or water and potentially be injured from a damaged home or floodwaters coming into your home. A lot of people choose not to evacuate because they think it's either inconvenient or something they just aren't prepared for. I would say that if you evacuate and the storm doesn't come, well, the worst thing that happened to you was you took a spontaneous vacation. If you leave early and with a little planning, evacuating doesn't have to be a burden. It can actually be fun. You can even kind of look at it as a family road trip. So let's talk about some of the things you're going to need to take with you on the road. You're definitely going to want 3 days worth of supply for each member of your family. That's 3 days worth of water at 1 gallon per person per day. You want to take your non-perishable foods and make sure you have your can opener. You want to make sure you have something like an igloo cooler so that you can take lunch meats, keep some cool water with you while you're on the road. Make sure you have your toiletries and things like toilet paper. And a lot of people don't like to talk about this, but sometimes when you're evacuating, you're going to get stuck in traffic. And you want to make sure that your family has some means to dispose of waste. So you want to take something that your family, especially your kids, can use the restroom safely in. You definitely want to take a means of alternative cooking like the camp stove with propane. Make sure you take flashlights for each member of your family, and carry a gas can with you. I wouldn't carry it full unless you can carry it safely, like if you have a roof rack or a luggage rack that's actually outside of your car. You want to make sure you have a small bag of tools and some duct tape, just in case anything goes wrong with the car. You can always use duct tape to plug busted hoses and stuff like that. And you want to make sure you have your spare tire with a jack tool, and definitely have some kind of either road cones or road flares with you. Make sure you include your first aid items, a hand-cranked radio and light, 3 days worth of clothes, pillows and blankets, or you can pack sleeping bags, and make sure you take along some things to entertain your kids while you're on the road. If you take your handheld video games, make sure you pack extra batteries. You also want to take your pet needs into consideration. Make sure if you're going to take your pet with you, and you should if you evacuate, that you have a carrier the proper size, and that you pack three or 4 days worth of food for your pets.
So you've completed your checklist, packed your vehicle with everything you'll need, and the family's ready to hit the road. Now where do you head? When you're evacuating, plan to travel at least 2 to 3 hours inland from where the storm will land. It's a good idea to call ahead to make hotel reservations 72 to 48 hours in advance. You can always call and cancel if you don't have to evacuate. Plan to leave at least 48 to 24 hours before the storm will hit to avoid traffic delays. Plan out your evacuation routes ahead of time and have at least 2 to 3 routes. Fill up your vehicle 3 to 4 days in advance and stay topped off to avoid the last-minute rush. Make sure you have enough cash on hand for food and gas for the duration of your trip. Be sure to monitor local news stations and wait for local officials to declare it safe before you return home. So plan ahead, leave early, and make it fun. If your area has been greatly affected by a major hurricane, then you've done the smart thing by evacuating. However, coming home to face the damage that may have occurred can be scary, and floodwaters, downed power lines, and backed up sewage may still pose a threat. When returning home, make sure you avoid flooded areas and be very aware of downed power lines. Do not return to your home if it is still flooded or has been significantly damaged by the storm. and under no circumstances should you drive through flooded roads. Contact your insurance provider immediately before making any repairs to your home. And be sure you document any damage that may have been done by video or photos. If power is still out, check frozen and refrigerated foods and make sure you dispose of any spoiled meat. Use flashlights and avoid using candles, as gas lines may have been compromised. Returning to see your home damaged or destroyed can be devastating. However, you've done everything you could to protect the well-being of yourself and your family. Remember that material things can always be replaced, but your life and that of your loved ones is the most valuable possession we hold. So have hope and let that drive you to rebuild and keep moving forward.
Thank you for taking the time to watch. Now that you have this information, I ask you to put it into practical use so that you and your loved ones can remain safe and not become the victims of your next major hurricane. Be sure to check out the resources at the website below, and if you have any questions, you can email me at scott@nomoregrasshoppers.com. So until the next time, this is Scott, the ex-grasshopper with nomoregrasshoppers.com, encouraging you to plan for tomorrow so that you can live for today.